into a seated position. We're going to draw the hands into the lap, resting one set of fingers in the opposite palm and using one set of fingers to cup the opposite outer hand. Thumbs press together and come up, and we just rest them down. We're going to close down the eyes, relax down the jaw, and guide our awareness towards our breath. Observe the speed in which the breath draws in and out through the nostrils. Observe the fullness of the breath. If it reaches all the way down to your belly, if it overflows all the way up into your diaphragm, and allow yourself to spend a bit of time here encouraging a really full and complete exhale. You might draw the abdominals all the way up to the back, as if there's a piece of string pulling your belly button towards the spine as you exhale, and then releasing it as you inhale. Last 2 breaths here, just coming into the body. This is what we know as grounding, just arriving with all of your awareness on that present moment, on your breath. Just witnessing how the breath moves through you, how we can very gently manipulate the breath by elongating to relax the nervous system, bring a sense of calm, to de-stimulate. Brilliant. From here we're going to draw our hands towards the knees, relax the shoulders down and away from the ears, and imagine this straight line from your pelvic floor or your root all the way up to your crown. We're going to draw our heart space around that line. So we start off by scooping the heart space back. We draw the heart space round to one side. We come forwards, round, back through the right, and all the way back around the pole. Well done. So you can do this in a variation of ways. You could keep your spine quite straight, which would mean that your head moved with you, like so. You could gently flex through the spine, meaning your head would stay relatively central, extending and flexing, coming into a little lateral bend as you move around. You might not feel comfortable with that lateral movement, so you might do more of just a flexion and extension, or you might feel a bit more comfortable with just that side movement. Just think about what feels right for you. It can be as tiny of a movement as you need. We can go in either direction. Last 2 breaths here. Well done. When you're feeling ready, we drop one hand to the floor and reach the other arm up and over. think about shining your armpit towards the sky and then reaching your hand up and over. We're aiming for length from that hip to the fingertips rather than depth. We want to think about being as tall as we can. We scoop forwards and round. However, if that feels a bit much for your body, come through center instead. We're aiming for length and openness, shining the armpit towards the sky. This allows us to stop that closing off. Well done. We should feel the stretch from the hip all the way to the fingertips. Well done. Either come forwards as we did before or come through center. Other side. Allow yourself to take it at your own pace, to your own depth. Long through the body, open through the side body. And last one, other side. Aiming for length, move as slowly as you like. And then coming back through center. Well done. We're going to draw both legs out in front. We dorsiflex through the feet and then slide your right leg up towards you, hooking that leg over the opposing leg's thigh. Your foot is going to face as forwards as it can, sole of the foot down, and we scoop the left arm around that outer leg, placing your other arm down behind you. We aim for length through the spine, openness through your chest, and then we send our gaze over our back shoulder. We're pressing firmly down through that right foot. We're reaching for length with that base leg and reaching for length from the crown up to the sky. Because we're in a twist, it can be very easy here to forget to breathe. So just allow yourself to slow it down. Guide your awareness back towards the breath, flooding into your tummy. If your mind starts to wander, just observe where it wanders to. When you're feeling ready, gently guide that leg up and then shine the sole of the foot back. We scoop it all the way into a shoelace. The knees are relatively stacked, and it doesn't matter if they're not fully stacked here. We're going to take that base leg, heel toe, underneath the other leg. If it wants to stay out long instead, then we absolutely can. Allow both sit bones to bear down. Arms come to facing up. We're going to gently walk your hands forwards to enter a little bit more into a yin-like pose. Now, you might prefer to stay completely upright if we're being mindful of the back or anything like that. Or you might prefer to just fall into it by releasing every muscle forwards and down. There are many, many ways to practice. We could be in that half shoelace. We could have our hands in our lap upright. We could be folded forwards. We can incorporate bolsters and blankets and bricks wherever we need to make the pose a little bit more restorative, a little bit more nurturing moment to moment. Rather than tapping into that discipline, we can begin to enter more into that soft approach towards our poses, where each moment feels a little bit more enjoyable and peaceful, rather than that simplicity of a hard ground and gravity and the body coming together, melting down the muscles, switching off that stretch response to go a bit deeper into the connective tissues, into the joints, allowing ourselves to slowly begin to target the range of motion of the body rather than the flexibility, beginning to melt down through the fascia, beginning to improve the length and the strength of these deep parts of the body. And we can only do this by switching off through the muscles, by beginning to trust in the pose, trust in gravity, and trust in your knowledge of your body. In Yin, we would always like to reach that halfway point between not feeling it at all and feeling it far too much. We don't want to feel any sensation of pain or pinching or sharpness. The sensations should feel quite large, ebbing and flowing. We want it to be intense but not painful, maybe unfamiliar if you haven't practiced Yin that many times. Maybe even a little bit uncomfortable because we are always reaching new depths within our range of motion when we practice Yin. Each time we switch off the muscles, we are going as deep as gravity will let us go, meaning we find our edge and we just commit to stillness. Not just stillness in the way that the muscles are not active and engaged, but we also switch off the fidgeting, those tiny movements, itches, scratches, which can be really, really difficult to begin to switch off. But the idea is, the more we allow ourselves to become still in the physical body, the easier it becomes to become still within the emotional body, the energy body, the mind. Well done. From here we're going to go on to the other side. So we're going to take our top leg and scoop it forwards. Take the base leg, scoop it forwards. And just take a moment here. This is our counter pose. You might be upright, you might be forwards. There is no right or wrong here. We're just allowing the legs to be nice and straight. The spine can be whatever it wants, upright or relaxed. The eyes close down and the muscles are still relaxed. That might mean that your feet fall outwards. We allow the exact same stillness in our counter poses that we encourage in our Yin poses themselves. When you're feeling ready, we're going to come into our second side, or the other side I should say. We're going to take our left leg, scooping it up, planting that left sole of the foot down, shining it forward. So we're starting off in a Yang pose. We wrap that that right arm around, planting your left arm down behind you. We aim for length through the spine, back of the neck long, and then send your drishti over that back shoulder if you like, or you can close your eyes down allowing your awareness to settle inwards instead. Prioritize your breath being full here. There's a lift through the pelvic floor and core. We allow ourselves to be active, long, open, bringing length and height on the in-breaths and deepening on the out-breaths. And that doesn't have to mean physically drawing taller and then physically twisting more and more on the out-breaths. It just means deepening into that present moment. We're here for 2 more breaths. Before we take our hands to that leg, we lift and scoop it up and round. So we have this energy. It doesn't matter if your knees are like this, it's absolutely fine. As long as we have that energy of guiding it up and round, then you're practicing your shoelace perfectly. We start off with the heel relatively close towards your pelvis. You might have this leg out long and soften down the foot, or you might scoop that leg under. You can heel toe, or you can lift the hip to scoop it under and round. We then soften the hips down, and both sides of your pelvis are equal in their pressure down, if possible. If not, you can grab a block or a blanket. If you'd like to make it a bit more nurturing, a bit more restorative, you might send an upright bolster in front of you, wrapping your arms around it and resting your head down just to make the pose feel a bit more like a hug. You might wrap a blanket around you for that extra heaviness and warmth and comfort, or you might want to tap more into that yin essence of this pose. In restorative and yin, whether we include props to make it more comfortable, or whether we allow ourselves to just sit with the simplicity of the hard ground and gravity weighing us down as we surrender down with it. No matter which one you're going for, both you relax down your physical muscles, both you're going to be going deeper into the connective tissues, and in both you're working with the energy body. Not just the yin yang within you, in the way that it's one of the few times in your week, in your month, in your years that you will nurture that yin energy within you. The energy that has permission to do nothing at all other than be and exist, perfect exactly as it is. The energy that relates to the moon, the feminine energy. It's thought that we all have yin and yang energy within us. And that the yang energy, which relates to the sun and to movement and to doing, being productive, responding, reacting, deciding. This side of ourselves is quite encouraged and celebrated. But we need that perfect balance between the two to feel that harmony within our energy body and to avoid burning out, to avoid going into overdrive within the body and within the mind. So we need to allow that time spent within our yin energy, even though it's sitting in stillness, in silence, both physically, energetically, mentally, as much as possible. It's one of the most productive things that we can do to bring that balance and that harmony, to allow better cognitive function, healthier movement through the body. When we practice yin, we're targeting these deep yin tissues to allow ourselves to bring strength and length and lubrication to areas that can be underused due to that stretch response that's protecting them from yang movements. So we're just moving these parts of our body in a way that they enjoy to be moved. We're nurturing the yin side of our energy body. And we're also working with the Meridian body, which is derived from traditional Chinese medicine theory that there are ley lines or channels of energy moving through your whole body, each relating to a different emotion, a different internal organ, and each of them can become blocked if we begin to create an attachment to anything outside of ourselves, whether that be a person, a role, a thing, an item, that we might begin to create these tensions within our body, these attachments, which can block that natural flow of energy through your body. So in yin, we're just releasing these tensions, we're melting down the pressure, and we're stimulating these meridians, encouraging that healthy flow, so that now when we come into our counter pose, you can use your hands to scoop the legs forward, and there is that surge of energy through your body. You can relax your arms wherever they like, relax your head, your spine. Breathing fully. If your mind begins to wander, just observe where it wanders to. In the same way we allow the body to be non-doing, we allow the mind to be non-doing also. Not in the way that we need to be free from thought, not experiencing thoughts drawing in, but simply in the way that we don't need to respond to the thoughts that we observe. We are just the witness, the observer self, which is thought to be your consciousness, your awareness, the part of yourself that carries on when the body and the brain don't, essentially. So it's separate from the brain's habitual patterns, separate from the thoughts. And when we allow ourselves that non-attachment, not necessarily detachment, because we're not rejecting the thoughts, we're not ignoring them, but non-attachment in the way that we know they don't reflect anything on who we are. We're simply the one observing within yin. When we allow ourselves to step into this role, it allows us to observe the ego, the identity, all these different parts of our brain in action, and we can keep stepping back, observing them with nothing other than acceptance and compassion. When we're feeling ready, as slowly as we can, we're going to scoop our legs round, tuck your toes under, sink your hips back, and then melt your tummy down on top of your thighs. We stack the fists and rest your forehead on top. If this feels far too much on your knees, draw a blanket underneath your knees. If it feels far too much on your toes, then you can absolutely untuck the toes. If you'd like to intensify further, keeping your toes tucked, come up into a kneeling position instead. Allow a heaviness. Allow a complete melting down. It's thought that within yin poses, The more you resist, the more intense the pose will come. The less enjoyable the pose will feel. And it's quite similar to day-to-day life. The more we surrender and just accept, go with the flow, and allow, the easier things feel. Whereas the more we resist, the harder it feels. And Yin can have this lovely knock-on benefit for off the mat or outside of the studio, in the way that we can begin to take that habit of simply observing when the mind has wandered, and rather than letting the ego or the identity or habitual loops and thoughts and habits take the driving seat, we instead let this part of ourselves, our consciousness, our higher self, however you choose to refer to these different elements and aspects within you, we allow the part of ourselves that simply observes with awareness, acceptance and compassion, with that complete surrender, we're here for 2 more breaths. Whenever you're feeling ready, slowly as you can, you make your way up. We're going into our final pose. And it's up to you here. If you do have a long bolster, then you might plant your bolster along the length of your mat and lay your back on the bolster. You can also do this with a pillow. So say, for example, imagine this bolster is a little bit longer than this. You can draw it right against your pelvis, lean back, your knees come wide, your hands come together, and we drop the arms back, like so. If you would like to do this, but just down on the floor, you can do the exact same thing, but without a pillow. Wherever you are, we allow that complete melting down. If you have sensitivity in your shoulders, draw your arms wide and down by your side, whether your back is on the floor or on a bolster. If we do have the arms up and back, then we allow ourselves to target the heart and the lung meridians, which relate to feelings of love and freedom. With the knees wide, we're targeting the inner groin and therefore the stomach and spleen meridians. But it's also likely that you're going to feel it through the liver and kidney meridians too, which relate to courage and letting go. Because we're tapping into so many of the meridians here, it is normal for your mind to wander. And it's thought that your mind will wander even more when your face is shining upwards. So just let yourself be present here. There is no need to respond to anywhere that the mind wanders. You don't need to do anything at all other than exist in the present without the responsibility to respond to your own thoughts, as they do not reflect anything upon you or who you are. They're simply a thought that you're experiencing in the present moment. If your hips do not like being in this position, you can absolutely send them long for the last few minutes here. So your arms can be wherever feels right for your body. We allow a complete stillness within the physical body, because by stilling the physical body, we eventually bring stillness into the mind. We use the body as a vessel to bring stillness into the energy, the emotions, the mind. This allows us to do this not from a place of doing. We're not simply telling the mind to be still and expecting it to follow our order. We instead bring stillness into our physical being, which has that lovely knock-on effect. We keep reaching for that inner allowing and accepting until we're no longer having to reach for it, but instead we're just allowing our natural state, our yin-like essence, to do that for us. We're allowing ourselves to be rather than do. We're here for 3 more breaths. In your own time, in your own comfortable transition, we begin to bring movement into the fingers and into your toes. We slowly roll onto one side, or make your way straight up if that feels more correct for you. We draw ourselves into an upright seat. We guide our hands into a Jali Mudra, and we rest here for 5 breaths. You can repeat a mantra or a prayer, or just stay in stillness and silence. Allow that full breath. And then when you're ready, bring your arms down. You are all done.